the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour, with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Applegarth.
Touchdown! All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me as usual, co-host AJ Applegarth. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Good. And I figured I'd rock my SFB 13 shirt because I'm back in the playoffs for SFB 14. I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah,
my team was not as good as I'd hoped. My division was very good, like very competitive. We had 8 people make it.
Yeah, so did we.
It could have very easily been 9, possibly 10. I missed it by record by 1 win, and I blame that on my median loss by like 2 points, not even. So
yeah,
but yeah, looking forward to
11 Fantasy Six-Pack people in, man. That's pretty awesome. I don't know how many people we had in the whole contest. I wasn't keeping track of that, but
I'm not sure.
It was either way, pretty good showing, I feel like. So what's up, Albert? Always here, man. Love to see you. Yeah, so good showing there. We're watching this exciting Thursday night game between the Steelers and the Browns. The snow is coming down hard now. It's cold. It's wet. It's sloppy. Should be a run fest the rest of the way, honestly, in my opinion. So Najee's already kind of been meh. There's been some fumbles. It's been a sloppy game, man. So I'm glad I got off of this game wherever I could. Just unfortunately with so many bye weeks, it was really hard to get off this game in a few places. You just like, how are you going to sit George Pickens when like, you know, you're looking at a bunch of like bye week players on your bench, and then you're looking at the waiver wire going like, no, I don't want any of them.
Especially receiver. Like this is a painful receiver bye week.
It is. It
Cincy,
really is.
Buffalo. Jets. I mean,
yeah. Pretty brutal. But all right, well, before we jump into things, though, just want to remind everybody while you're here, hit that subscribe button, that like button, follow us, whatever it is, wherever you listen, watch. We appreciate it. Jump in the comments, ask us questions, say hi. We love to hear from you. And of course, our all access memberships are still hanging around there to help you get to the finish line here in the regular season and through the playoffs. Go over to fantasysixpack.net/plan. Sign up to be an all-access member. You can use promo code F6P NFL24 and save 15%. Lots of stuff, there. I said it every show. You can go ahead and check it all out. There's lots of good stuff. You get access to the Discord, which, in my opinion, is the most invaluable piece of the whole thing. You get to talk to us whenever you want and ask whatever questions you want for your team. So there you go. All right. So without further ado, we're going to bring in our guest of the week. We have Elijah Twersky, USA Today writer, and another top 5 ranker over Fantasy Pros right now. What's going on today, man?
It was going better until, it was going well until the game started. And I've got Joku and Tillman going in this one, and yeah, I've turned it off.
I think I benched more for Warren. So I was like already stuck on this game with that in one league. I had to play Najee in one. I didn't have any backup running backs. I could have played Chubb, but it was like, again, same game. I'd rather just play Najee in that case. I unfortunately had to play Njoku in another one because my backup tight end was Ferguson, which even if he's healthy, I don't know is better. So it's like, oh no, this is a rough week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
all right, man.
I was thinking of picking up Will Dissly and playing him instead of Njoku, but
gone in all my leagues. Gone.
He was available. It's a keeper league, and the only guy I have really that I can drop is Benson, and I don't want to drop him.
Yeah.
So
I was looking at some dudes to drop for some better potential fill-ins because of this game and bye weeks, and I was stashing Benson for a week, and I was like, I just spent 68 a bunch of fab money on him, and I didn't want to waste it because I do think Benson's going to be a thing down the stretch. So glad we agree on that. But you and I are alone on that, man. We are on an island. Go read my Reddit thread a couple weeks ago. I did this usage article. I got roasted.
I don't get. I mean, we've seen James Conner year after year miss at the very least a couple of games. It hasn't happened yet, but he misses a couple games every year. Arizona has, I believe, the easiest schedule in the fantasy playoffs for running backs, or their top 3. So if Conner misses any time, you're looking at probably an RB1.
Yeah, I mean,
and he could have standalone value too.
They're already getting him involved, and people were roasting me about like, oh, you didn't watch the games. It's funny. If you can go find the Reddit thread, it's pretty hilarious. I bet it was like, all right, you guys have fun. See you later.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's jump into things here. We're gonna start with some topics before we get into the start sit kind of rankings review here. I want to talk and get your thoughts about Isaiah Pacheco returning this week and just what it means for him and Kareem Hunt this week and beyond. What's your thoughts about these guys?
Yeah, it's kind of like the toughest read probably of this week, especially I don't think we've gotten any very insightful quotes from Andy Reid about like what his workload's going to look like. Probably not. Yeah. Although the coach speak account on Twitter is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite accounts. The NFL coach speak or the fantasy coach speak account.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But so I try to go back and look at like Andy Reid's history and how he's kind of handled these things. So in 2021, CEH missed 5 games with an MCL sprain. He was averaging 16.3 touches per game before the injury. And in his return, he had 14 touches. The next game, he had 17. The next game, he had 13. Now, his snap share dropped by around 10 or 15%. So there was a little bit of dip there. Last year, Pacheco injured the shoulder. He had surgery on in that offseason. He missed 2 games, and then he returned, and he had 15 and 25 touches. Again, his snap share in that first game was down by like 20%. But the touches were there. In 2019, Tyreek Hill missed 4 games with a shoulder injury. His first game back, he had 10 targets, only like a 50% snap share, but look, the workload's there. And then I went back to like 2018. Sammy Watkins had a foot injury, missed the entire – it was like week 13. He missed the rest of the season. He came back in the playoffs and played nearly 100% of the snaps. Now, it is the playoffs, so it's a different animal, but – I think we've seen, and you could even go back to his Philly days. He had it with LaShawn McCoy after a concussion. We've seen time and time again, if Reed's playing a guy, like if the guy's actually active, there's a pretty good chance he's going to get a nice chunk of touches. And we saw last week, Kareem Hunt didn't look so good. I mean, he hasn't looked amazing overall, but last week, only 14 carries, 0 targets. He's had 1 target or fewer, and I believe 3 of his last 4 games. So I'm kind of optimistic about Pacheco. As the week has gone on, he's like just slowly going up my rankings. I think I've got him at like RB20 now. Just the matchup against the Panthers is you gotta love that matchup. Even if it's 12, 13 touches, that could be enough in that matchup. Hunt, on the other hand, I'm just the lack of involvement in the passing game, the fact that he is going to lose a decent amount of carries. I'm not optimistic there. Even with the matchup, I'm kind of like scared to touch him.
All right. AJ, you got any thoughts on how this is going to play out?
Yeah, I agree with the assessment from Alicia there. It's tough because I've got Hunt in a couple places, and I was really excited to get him, knowing that Pacheco was going to be out. I lost him in a dynasty league, so I'm kind of hoping, for him to be back, because that was one of the areas I did not get Hunt. But yeah, Hunt's been pretty underwhelming, and the fact that he's not really being involved in the passing game, is worrisome to me. I think Pacheco can get more involved in it and probably should be more involved in it once he's back. But if they're going to do this slow roll up with, bringing him back up to speed, then it's when are we going to see that passing game is what worries me now.
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to go in and try to do, the kind of the Cleveland playbook and have Pacheco be more of the Nick Chubb running side of things, and Hunt actually gets involved in passing now? Maybe they split Hunt out to the sides. So it's still TBD, obviously, but and it's not even a guarantee that Pacheco will definitely return this week. I know he's trending that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if he misses another week, and they're just still doing.
Don't need him this week. You mean?
They really don't. I mean, they're doing well enough without him. They finally lost their first game. They should have a couple more losses in my mind. They've gotten lucky. The Zebras have helped them. Whatever the excuse may be, but I think it's going to be interesting to see, because the wide receiver room for Kansas City is still not impressive. They've lost everybody good that they had. Hollywood, before he even stepped on the field for him. Rice, you name it.
Don't remind me,
buddy. And then last week, Buffalo, basically shuts down Travis Kelce. Oh, okay, here's no Gray. What?
Yeah.
Touchdowns later, and what, like 4 catches, 20-some yards or whatever it was? That's probably off. But it's like, this just doesn't make sense. Get Hunt more involved.
I will say, if you've got Pacheco and you're thinking about starting him, you need to be keeping a very close eye on every quote from Andy Reid, any report from any of the Chiefs beat reporters. Just keep an eye on all that and try to read the tea leaves. If it looks like he's going to return, but he's going to be limited, he's going to be in a strict pitch count, again, like you said, there are 6 teams on bye, but you might need to sit him. But if we don't get anything that indicates that he's going to be on a strict pitch count, I'm willing to roll him out. Again, it is the matchup, the match of the Panthers.
Yeah.
Even if he's getting 40% of the snaps and only 30% of the carries, I mean, all he's got to do is get in the end zone, which in a game like this, they're going to run. I mean, I know a lot of people, and myself included, have Mahomes ranked pretty high this week, but I am worried about that ranking because they could just lean on the run game and the defense like they've done all season long, outside of the last few games. So
the other fun fact here
Mahomes
is.
has had. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, the other fun fact here with the Panthers versus opposing running backs is ridiculous. They have 3 games this year where not only have they allowed less than 100 yards to opposing running backs, it's less than 130 yards. So it's just, and obviously that can be tandems and more. The source I'm looking at is all the running back, but there's only 2 games where they haven't given up at least one rushing touchdown. And that was 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago against Denver, and then which was 3, and then 2 weeks ago, against New Orleans. They still gave up 168 yards to New Orleans. Yeah. So
the matchup is great. I do kind of think that because they are 9-1, they don't have to go. They don't have to rush it in. Yeah. Kareem Hunt, the last couple of games have started to show signs of wear and tear. But I still think he's good enough to be used a good amount. I do think they slow play him in a little bit. And Albert brings up a good point too here. The Chiefs are on a short week. They play again on Friday. So that's something to consider too. How much do they really want to
That's true.
push on him?
Something
else to consider. I am legitimately worried. We talked about that trade I made in Dynasty where I got Pacheco. The guy's loaded at running back, so I gave him a good receiver to to kind of finish out the year and hopefully go win the championship. But, I don't think Pacheco is going to put me over the top. Like, he's good. I may end up having to start him because my team's sort of meh, but I'm not expecting Pacheco like we saw at the beginning of the year when he was healthy. No way.
I mean, they've got a pretty tough schedule. As far as running backs are concerned, they've got a pretty tough schedule going forward.
They do.
I don't think they have a single good matchup after this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I don't have the schedule up, but that does sound familiar. But yeah, I mean that's my thoughts on it. I know there was a lot of. I was trying to sell Hunt to everybody, and I know everybody was balking on it. And again, I was under the firm belief that they were still going to kind of lean on Hunt until it just died.
Yeah,
I don't think they were going to force Pacheco. They want him to be healthy for the playoffs. I think that's really what they're going to do. They're going to make sure he stays healthy. But we have a question, Avery. I'll get to your question after this next topic here. I want to talk about quick thoughts on Jonathan Brooks playing his first game of the year. This is the same game that we're just talking about. So Jonathan Brooks playing in his first game, heralded rookie playing for Carolina here. What are we thinking with this guy? And like, they just gave Chuba Hubbard that contract. Like, what's the deal here in Carolina?
So I it's pretty clear. Like, I think I've heard it. Like, they're trying to build the Detroit model of like David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I guess Brooks would be the Gibbs and Hubbard would be the Montgomery, or something like that. But I mean, you need to have a good team. You need to have an offensive line. You need to have a quarterback. You need to have receivers. So it's not just like I don't think Legette's going to be St. Brown, and I don't think you don't really have a Jameson Williams. So I think it's a bit early on that. But for Brooks, there is no way in hell I'm starting him this week. There's just no chance. Like, I think if you talk about being eased in, I think he is going to he's going to have at most the Miles Sanders role. And this is the toughest matchup in fantasy, running backs going up against Kansas City. I try to generally find historical context for these things, kind of like with the Pacheco thing. Now, DeAndre Swift, he was drafted 35th overall by the Lions. He was dealing with a bunch of injuries, so they kind of slow played him in. His first 4 weeks, he got 6, 10, 1, and 8 touches. LaMichael James, the 61st overall pick in 2012. He was inactive the first 12 games, and then he averaged 6.1 touches per game after he was activated. And then prior to Sanders getting hurt, Hubbard was averaging 17.7 touches. Sanders was averaging 6.3. I think that's kind of where it's going to land for the rest of the season. And for that reason, I think Hubbard's actually a pretty solid buy low candidate if your trade deadline hasn't passed yet. They've got the easiest playoff schedule. They have a couple tough matchups in the next 3 games, but they've got the easiest playoff schedule. So I still think Hubbard's going to be getting at least 15 touches, probably closer to 20 touches a game. And I'm not, like, in redraft, like I had him in one league and I dropped him a few weeks ago when it just kept getting dragged out. Like, I just don't see them, like, really leaning on him this year. There's no point. Like, yeah, let's give him a couple touches, see what he's got. But, like, what's the point?
Well, exactly.
I agree with you.
He's coming off a major injury. You have zero reason to rush him back and get him going. What's up, Ronnie? And like you said, the playoff matchups, Dallas, Arizona, Tampa, and then Atlanta. If you go into Week 18, definitely ideal for Carolina. It's funny that it's the exact polar opposite spectrum of the one team having the worst running backs or worst against running back, and then Kansas City the best against running back. So
this was not the game to bring Brooks back, in my opinion.
No,
you can sit back for one more game. Watch Chuba get absolutely wrecked by this Kansas City front, and you don't need to take on that.
Like, in this game, like, I guess the 6 buys, you got to start Hubbard probably if you have him, but like, you're not feeling good about it at all. Like,
And Scott Fish, I'm actually lucky. I can bench Chuba this week.
I did in my one.
Not great options in his place, but good enough that I'm not trying to play Chuba Hubbard in this one.
Yeah.
I don't know where he gets points from. I really don't.
This week,
Cook last week, he had, 10 touches and 2 touchdowns? He had, maybe 25 yards or something. It was the touchdown saved his day.
Offense, man.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the touchdown saved his day, but overall, Kansas City was still bottling them up.
Yeah.
At least in the run.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a lot of the Chiefs, all their games, but I see the highlights. I see the red zone stuff. Obviously, we know the stats, but I did see. I think they were playing the Raiders, and they fumbled the ball on the 5-yard line. The Raiders didn't score, and all they did was try to run. Smart teams do smart things, right? But it was run, and it was just they actually lost. It was this front is incredible.
Did Antonio Pierce punt after that? Because that would be right on brand for him, punting from the 10-yard line.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was that was something else. So, all right, so we're gonna jump into our rankings review, start sit questions here, but we got a couple or I guess there's one from the crowd here. So Avery has been waiting patiently. Hi guys, need a wide receiver to RB2 and a flex out of these guys. So we got Ladd McConkey. So let's start with the wide receiver here. So Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore. I'm going Ladd. Check his injury. He is questionable right now, but I believe he's going to play. But I go Ladd if I can.
I would look at it in order probably.
Yeah, I'm kind of deciding between Ladd and Marvin Harrison. I think I would go Harrison, but I'd still go Ladd and flex. So I think you get them both in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at running back, I'd go Bucky.
I agree. Yeah. So the running backs here are Ramondre, Bucky, and that's it. So it's Ramondre Stevenson and Bucky, and I go Bucky too. So and I agree with you. It's Ladd or Marv, and then Bucky, and then the other receiver for the flex. Yeah. That's where I would go as well. So
Ramondre has been kind of disappointing, and his usage in the passing game has been almost non-existent lately. He's getting 1 or 2 targets a game, and he's a better receiver than that. But May's aggressive, so yeah, we've got to see more from. You're not gonna like that. Tillman just walked off the field. Oh no! Did he at least have a catch before that happened, or
he did, and then he fumbled, I think.
Oh, he's got 2 catches now for 28 yards. Great. This is going well. Okay, and then
a fumble.
Njoku has 1 catch, right? Yeah, and a fumble.
Points. Whatever that is. Oh man, now you can't even see the field. This is football.
Crazy.
Yeah, this is football.
Yeah. I mean, all this shit's coming our way too, which is the problem.
Oh, it's coming this way? Oh no.
Yeah, supposedly.
I don't want it. Stop. Don't talk that nonsense. All right. Let's jump into our next portion of the show here. Good old share the screen. Mike, you ready for me? Oh, here we go. Actually, sorry, one more. Sneaked it in. Keith, 10 team. I'm assuming that meant PPR pick 1, Wandell, Romeo Dobbs, Roma Dunze. Ooh. Dobbs.
I go with Dunze. His role's been actually in terms of target share, his role's been consistent.
Been good,
and
they're back to back for me, but yeah, I mean it's
kind of liked what they did against Green Bay. They were doing some different things.
They were.
The average depth of target was a lot better than it was before the firing.
Come on.
Oh, my bad. I was looking at my half rankings. Yeah, in full PPR, I go with Dunze also. So yeah, I agree with you. I was looking at my wrong rankings. My bad. So all right, now we are moving on. Mike, ready to set the stage here?
I mean, yeah, I'm going to set the stage, and I'm you're not going to be very happy No, Njoku just dropped a touchdown.
Oh, I needed that too. Scott Fishbowl, come on.
It was
I'm
right
glad
there.
I'm not watching it.
Pittsburgh.
Don't worry, I'll
Pittsburgh's
keep you
been,
guys
like,
updated.
They've been really good at just knocking balls out that are caught, basically. The last few games that I've watched them go, oh, Jameson's in.
Hey, Jameis scored?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Busted play. I almost played
right.
him in one league, and then I was like, nah, I'm not going
Speaking of playing QBs, Joe, you get to start us off with our QB start-sit question this week. You got Jordan Love versus the Niners or Geno Smith versus the Cardinals. Who you starting? Who you sitting?
I am. I'm gonna go good old Geno Smith. I think this could be a shootout game here. I really do. I mean, like, it hasn't been pretty for Geno Smith. Don't get me wrong, but he gets it done in fantasy. That's all we care about here, right? Jordan Love is good, but it's not really like he's not blowing it up, right? He's spreading the ball around to a couple of guys. Like, the receivers are almost impossible to predict at this point because one guy will get 7 targets one game, the next game he'll get 2. I talked about this on the waiver show with CK Corey in here. It's just up and down. If you look at like the usage charts for the receivers, it's all over the place. We loved Reed early on. It was Dobbs and it was Wicks, and it's like it's everywhere. So good luck figuring that one out. But yeah, you would think like, yeah, with all those weapons there, Love is just awesome, but he's really not. Totally fine if you want to go him, but I would lean Geno Smith in but I think it's a sneaky shootout game.
All right, good news. 2-point conversion by David Njoku.
Yeah.
Yes, 2 points. That's great.
And a
Makes up for
catch.
No,
stats don't count on those, right?
No, you don't get a catch.
No, they don't.
No, the stats don't count on 2-point conversions, but the
2-point conversion.
The 2-point conversion does, so you get the 2 points at least. So
I get
the
2
2
points
points count, but the stats don't.
fumble.
Yep. Yeah. Got small victories.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on Geno, actually. As a Packer fan, Love's I think he's been solid. I don't think he's actually as bad as his numbers or the interception numbers suggest. From a fantasy perspective, this is not a great matchup. The 49ers have been actually really good. Over the last 5 games, they've held Mahomes, Prescott, Mayfield, and Geno twice to under 17 points. They've given up more touchdowns to running backs during that stretch than they have to quarterbacks. So I think Jacobs, who actually has been quietly really good for the Packers.
Yeah.
I think this is a Jacobs week. I think he can explode. He's probably close to the top 10. And Geno, like you said, it might not look pretty on the field, but from a fantasy perspective, he's coming through. He's 6. I think he's been it's been QB1 in 6 out of his 10 games. The Cardinals there's a weird home road split. They've allowed an average of 21.9 fantasy points to quarterbacks on the road, and just 12.2 in 6 home games. And they're on the road. Geno's at home. Like, it's not a huge sample size, so it might not mean anything, but it could mean something. I'd go with Geno.
AJ, it's a clean sweep or?
Yeah, I'm making a clean sweep. San Fran's just it's too tough of a matchup for me. They've been really good, and like you said, Alicia, the last 5 weeks really. I don't think this is a good game for Love at all. Even though it's in Green Bay.
Well, I don't think
it's
this is a good game for you, AJ.
It's a slight uptick for Love's prospects, but not enough for me to want to go with him over Geno.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I just watched
that
replay of the Winston touchdown, man. He got
Yeah,
wrecked.
It was brutal.
2 hands on the ball, though.
Oh, yeah. All right.
AJ, you get to get the next QB question here. You get to start us off. And, man, coming in hot. Anthony Richardson versus the Lions. You want Tua Tagovailoa versus the Patriots. Fight.
Whew. I think the answer's got to be Tua here. I love what Richardson did. Like I said, coming back in last week, had a really strong game, first game back. But, New England is the better matchup. Detroit is – the defense is – it's odd to me. Like, they're good. They are very good against opposing quarterback.
They allow a lot of yards, but
they can give up the yards.
They're holding that up.
But I mean, Richardson's not like a throwing quarterback, so he's going to be running. You know that. I think they're going to be able to get home against the Colts line. So I just don't like the upside for Richardson in this one. I think Tua's got the better matchup, and I mean he's been kind of up and down the past 4 weeks since he's been back, but he's got at least one touchdown in every game, only one interception. He does also have a fumble lost in that LA game a couple weeks ago, but the yardage is good enough, so I think it's Tua.
Alicia?
This one's not gonna be clean sweep. I'm going with Richardson. I think Tua, 6 career starts against New England. He's finished higher than QB 15 once. He's been the QB 20 or worse 4 times. And I know Stafford kind of exploded against them last week, but before that, they'd allowed more than 20 points to quarterback once all season. The teams go with an extremely run-heavy approach. Actually, they faced an average of 27.4 rush attempts from running backs over the since week 4, compared to 28.5 passes. It's almost 50-50. And on the other side, Richardson, we saw the upside he had last week. The Lions have faced 5 what I guess we would call mobile quarterbacks this year, and they've averaged 37 rush yards and 19.4 fantasy points. I don't think a single one of them had fewer than 16. I think he's going to have a nice floor in this one just from the pure rushing perspective. And the way he looked throwing the ball last week, we can't ignore that. That he was legitimately throwing it well. I mean, if you just compare it to 3-4 weeks ago where he was completing like 35% of his passes, it was like a different quarterback. And Tua the upside hasn't been there. Like he's had one game with like more than 20, I think, all season. I think this is an Achane, Mostert, Jaylen Wright game in my mind. Yeah. So I'd go with Richardson.
Man, yeah, I had to agree with you. And I mean, there's a reason why I've got Achane ranked, I believe, number 2 this week at running back, because I do think they're just going to run it down their throats. It's New England, everybody, yeah, you're right. Everybody wants to look at what Stafford did last week. And Stafford's like almost out to like prove a point right now. He's like he's just like, it's like, Kyren, you're good. You had yours early. It's my turn. Like,
I still got it. Yeah.
Right. It's like, yeah, I got my boys back. I'm going to use them while they're still healthy type of thing. Like, that's what it feels like. Yeah. And I mean, look, Tua has not looked great. Waddle's a ghost of his former self. It's probably like the 3rd option in the passing game behind Achane and Jonnu Smith at this point. It's sad to see, but
and Tyreek, so 4th option.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Tyreek's dealing with the injury too, so yeah, it's just it's a tough situation there for Tua to really take advantage of this. I don't feel crazy good about Anthony Richardson. I do look, after week 1, we were all like, oh yeah, it's all there because you got the rushing upside, you got the touchdowns, and then we saw what happened, right? It was bad. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to. It's very, very possible it could. I don't think you go from a 44% passer to all of a sudden a 66% passer overnight like that. There's something to that. They called plays differently last game to get him easy throws, get him in a rhythm, and then the offense just got humming, right? They were able to figure it out, and then Richardson was using his legs to kind of create some space and just find open guys. It wasn't a crazy complex offense last week. They're gonna have to keep doing the same thing for him to continue that value. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I think
I saw a stat somewhere that their RPO usage was almost 80%. In that game, it was some crazy number compared to they were barely using it in its first few starts, which was just shocking. I just think from a probabilities perspective, Tua's probably got just as good of a chance of getting you 10 points as Richardson, and I don't see him having the same upside. So I think for me, that's a good enough reason to just go with Richardson.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So we'll move out of the running backs here, and you get 3 options, Alicia. You get to start 2, sit 1, but you get to go ahead and go first. You got Aaron Jones versus the Bears, Brian Robinson versus the Cowboys, or Kyren Williams versus the Eagles. Fight.
I'm not sitting Kyren. It's no chance. I get he's going versus the Eagles. They've been tough on the run. The competition they faced has been kind of a factor. Last week, Robinson and Eckler totaled 168 yards against them. So prior to that, it's been Rico Dowdle, Travis Etienne and Bigsby timeshare, Chase Brown and Moss timeshare, Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary timeshare, Pierre Strong and Deontay Foreman timeshare, Bucky Rashad White timeshare, in which they actually had 160 yards and a touchdown. And then before that, their first 3 games of the season, they gave up 100 yards to each of Jacob. They gave up more than 100 yards to each of Jacobs, Bijan, and Kamara. And I think Kyren's due for some positive regression in the touchdown department, especially considering Philly's pass defense has been a lot better. And that's not they've been stopping some pretty serious teams and some pretty serious passing games. So I think I'm locking Kyren in. Brian Robinson versus Aaron Jones. I've got to go with Robinson. Dallas. It's the matchup is they've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs, and he's been extremely consistent. He's had 1 game I think where he's finished lower than RB22 in half PPR. Just 1 game I think, and then Aaron Jones. If you look at the other side, Aaron Jones has had I think his last 6 games he's been higher than RB19 once. He looks a little banged up. I think there's no question. Every game he's leaving the field for a chunk of snaps. Every single game. He looks banged up. Cam Akers is more involved. He's averaging 3.4 yards per carry over his last 6 games, or over his last 4 games, I think, which is actually 3rd worst among 25 running backs that have 50 carries during that time. So he's been inefficient, which is the opposite of what you expect from Aaron Jones. The matchup is decent, but I think Robinson's is better. So I'll go with him.
Speaking of running backs, Jaylen Warren touchdown. That helps nobody.
Hey, got me. Somewhere I swapped him in for Elijah Moore at the last second. Was it it's crab cake.
Wow.
There we go.
Great.
Congratulations. You've won
where
the
we're
answer
playing.
for this question, Joe.
Oh, that's me and AJ.
I think we're playing crab cake.
We are.
Week,
well,
right?
I've got Njoku giving me a whole whopping almost nothing. So you're welcome on that one.
Sweet.
So yeah, you're so projected to win. We'll see what happens. So my answer is the same. It's Kyren and Brian Robinson. It's really, Kyren Williams is still the dude. You cannot go away from that volume. It's just incredible. He's been in a little bit of a touchdown drought. I have a hard time believing that will not that's going to continue, much longer. So I'll definitely lean Kyren Williams. He's far and away the easy answer in my book on that one. I will go Brian Robinson also. It is purely matchup based. Eckler is taking a lot more of the work there than I thought he would. They've looked really good. Like this last game, and I know like they didn't win the game, but when they were both on the field, it was working. Like it was a good 1-2 punch there with both of them on the field quite a bit. Eckler and Robinson, that is. So I liked seeing that. But I mean, like when you look at the usage still, though, Robinson got 67% of the rushing attempts. Eckler only got 8. So I mean, it was pretty clear. Like Eckler was getting all the passing attempts. Robinson was getting all the runs. So like, there you go. That's how it's going to play out. Maybe not quite as skewed as it was last game, but going to be close. So I will go Brian Robinson against a really bad Dallas team right now. So
it almost feels like they're using Eckler as kind of an extension of Jaden Daniels' run game, which they're not doing as much anymore. Maybe they're scared. Maybe it's the rib injury, or maybe they just want to keep him healthy. So they're getting these easy dump offs to Eckler to kind of pick up those chunk yards that they would get otherwise with Daniels, which has really capped his floor and ceiling from a fantasy perspective. But we're talking about running backs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this one a clean sweep. I was potentially leaning Jones, but I mean the matchup against Dallas is just way too good. And the volume for Williams is clearly there. I do agree with you, Alicia, with the Philly defense. It's kind of a smoke and mirrors with the run game. The defense was definitely worse in the beginning of the year. They definitely had better competition going against them in the beginning of the year. They've kind of got their legs under them now. Stafford wants to show that he's the guy and he's got his guys back. Quinyon Mitchell has been a lockdown corner as a rookie. Like, you don't hear his name in the games because he's that good. People just can't get a ball. So, it's going to be interesting to see how him and Cooper DeJean and Darius Slay handle these stud receivers in Nakua and Kupp. But if they can keep them shut down, the volume is going to have to be there for Kyren. I think this is going to be a closer game. This is probably the best team that Philly's faced in quite a handful of weeks. So I'm a little worried about this game, but I'm not worried about Kyren and his volume in it. So
got Chad in here in the chat going, it's Dallas on the road, so expect some inspired defense. Have you ever heard Washington Stadium when they play Dallas? This is not a road game. Like this is a home game for them. There are more Dallas fans there, guaranteed. I've been to many of them.
Now,
dude,
they're going to show up this week.
It sucks.
Yeah,
really?
The Philly game. Or not the Philly game. There was another game earlier this year. The Steelers game.
Steelers,
it was all Steelers fans, man. It sucks. The stadium is terrible. No Washington fan wants to go. I cannot wait till they get a new stadium so I can actually go to a game again. I just refuse to go to whatever it's called now. It's not FedEx Field. Some bank field.
Of course, bank field.
So we do have another question in here from one of our subscribers here. What's up, Ron? I was waiting for you to do that, Mike. Not that it matters for this long question. So start one. I've in PPR Jennings versus Harrison. Another is Montgomery versus I'm a little confused. So is it? It's two questions.
One questions that he has.
Okay, so
is Jennings versus Harrison.
Oh, okay, got it. So
another is Montgomery versus Stevenson. That's Montgomery easily.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
Yeah, Montgomery easy there.
Jennings has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, Jennings has been solid, man.
Harrison's just
Packers
too
secondary,
inconsistent, but
Packers have been good against the pass.
They have.
I kind of lean Harrison.
I don't actually. I'm going Jennings. It's super close though.
I've got them like 2 spots apart.
I know.
So
I do
it's like-
too. It's rough.
I go Harrison. I think I saw some stats about how he dominates versus teams that primarily do play man coverage.
Yeah.
And Seattle is one of those teams. They have one of the highest rates of man coverage in the league.
Shit.
And then Kittle's back this week. You've got Deebo. I think, I'd go Harrison, and then I think Montgomery's easy. But the Jennings versus Harrison one is not.
That's a coin flip, man. I've got him back to back right now. So, and obviously he can find those on my site. So, Ron, you can check out the updates that I post there all week long. I'm sure it'll kind of shift in either direction as the week kind of changes, and I just go, it's what I feel this day. Sometimes that's how it rolls.
Well, boys, if that Jaylen Warren touchdown didn't help anybody, this Calvin Austin touchdown sure didn't help no one.
It's going to help me in all of my Calvin Austin leagues. This is great.
This is like
Not have that one.
DraftKings like favorite game.
Yeah.
They have to pay just one person basically because
There's
no
going to be one
thinks
the
person.
same
now
amount
who's
of
really
money.
tough.
Well, true.
Just doesn't get split 500 ways.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question here.
Yep, Joe, you get Rico Dowdle versus your Commanders. Javonte Williams in a juicy matchup against the Raiders. Or Bucky Irving against the Giants. Fight.
So it's Bucky easily, in my opinion. I do think he has taken over the backfield as far as like being the running back. We kind of called that a little earlier in the year. I mentioned it in my usage article that I kind of thought it was looking like this is going to turn into Bucky Irving's the running back and Rachaad White is going to be the passing down back. And then like I think 2 weeks later, it was like that was obviously what was happening, and we've seen it ever since. Now, Rachaad White has kept his value up big time because Godwin went down, Mike Evans went down, and so they've thrown the ball to Cade Otton and Rachaad White. Like if you look at the stats, the running backs and Cade Otton are leading the team in receiving every week. It's not good. Now Mike Evans comes back this week. We're pretty sure he's been practicing all week so far. So I do think that's going to take Rachaad White even more out of this equation. So give me Bucky Irving. Oh, it's really close here between Rico Dowdle and I know you were interested to talk about this Denver backfield, so I'll kind of let you have the floor with this one, but you can read my usage article on the website to kind of see my thoughts on it. All I know is it's a mess. That's my take on the Denver backfield. So I lean Dowdle just because at least we know, right?
Yep. So I think Sean Payton, the way he operates is he kind of knows like, okay, everybody's gonna be starting Javonte Williams this week. All right, so I'm gonna go with Jaleel McLaughlin.
Exactly.
We saw it last week with Estime, and like it's every week it's something. Javonte has not had back-to-back good games all year. It just hasn't happened. The matchup is good. I can't. Like Bucky is, like you said, Bucky is a no-brainer. Especially like game script. You talk about game script going against the Giants with Tommy DeVito. They should be up by a healthy amount, and Bucky should get a huge chunk of the carries there. Now with Rico, you've also got it's almost a different version of a coach like not sticking to his word. With Mike McCarthy saying, where Rico needs to get more touches, he needs to get more work, and then he gets less work than he did the week before. But I mean, as a Packer fan, I'm kind of used to this. We heard this every single year with Aaron Jones, where McCarthy would just use all of these like retread backs who were getting like 2 yards a carry, and Aaron Jones would be sitting there with his 9 touches or 10 touches. And McCarthy every week would say, Aaron Jones needs to get more work, as if he's not the one in control of it. And I think That's less of like.
But is he though, or is it Jerry Jones in his ear?
Oh, I don't think Jerry Jones is telling him like, "Hey, you need to have Zeke in there for like 3 drives in a row." Like, I can't imagine like it's not even Zeke. It's the corpse of Zeke at this point.
Yeah, it's so bad.
What's he in there for? So I'm going with Dowdle. It's actually a really good. It's kind of a good matchup. So since week 6, the Commanders have allowed the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. The Raiders are right there; they're 13th. They've given up at least 11.3 half PPR points to a running back in every single game, except for 2. So in every single game, almost every single game, there's a running back that's getting something. And that's kind of what you're hoping for with Rico versus Javonte. You're not really gunning for a ceiling game. You're gunning for like who's going to get me like 9, 10, 11, 12 points. I think Rico's probably more likely this week because Sean Payton's going to do something.
I mean, to be fair, the stats against the Commanders is a little skewed from last week because the Saquon is going bananas on us.
Yeah,
but
true. But I mean, they're
still not great. So not great.
Yeah, I mean, every single week though, they're getting some running backs getting at least like 11, 12, 13, 14 points.
Yeah.
So, I think he'll be a nice floor play. Maybe they don't get blown out in this one, and game script helps. That'll definitely work in his favor. If it's a close game, he probably could approach 20 touches.
Yeah. Good old Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Good old Sean Payton. AJ, you give your answer?
I did not.
Just say you agree.
But Bucky's definitely there, and I'm kind of leaning Javonte actually. I think that he's I don't know. He had a decent game.
Feel how I feel about
he had a decent game
against
Vegas already. So I'm leaning on that. He was dead. He was dead in the water, and then he came back, got the touchdown last week. He's still very involved in the passing game, so he's still going to have value. I get the appeal for Dowdle. I mean, it is kind of a coin flip, but I'm flipping it, and it's coming up Javonte.
Ron's over here. This is DFS. Austin was in maybe 90% of my lineups tonight. Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good call. DFS, the different beast than, a little action. Was that Judy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Judy. Oh, no. Winston, get up. Oh, no. He's hobbling. Quick question here. May or Stafford from the Smitty?
Stafford gets the Eagles. May gets the Dolphins.
Oh, both not great matchups, actually.
No.
I had somebody tell me the other day, like it was like a week ago. It was like, oh, the Dolphins secondary, the fact that they don't allow a lot of points to quarterbacks is skewed, and it was like, is it? Their secondary is really damn good.
Yeah, they've got
it's super good. What are you talking about?
Skewed.
I'm not so sure about that. I've got a back to back. I lean May.
I'm literally in the exact same boat. I've got May at 16, Stafford at 17. So I'll go May.
Yeah. So coin flip, but yeah, I'll go May. A little more rushing upside too. You kind of he'll scramble out. That's gonna help him, just enough. So, all right,
AJ, you get to start us off with our wide receivers. Same scenario. Start 2, sit 1.
Yep.
You get Zay Flowers versus the Chargers, Deebo Samuel Sr. against the Packers, and Courtland Sutton versus the Raiders. Fight.
Oh man, can I go with Deebo Samuel Jr.? Can I have him?
He's acting more like a senior as of late.
Probably score more.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. Oh man. I guess I'm gonna go with Zay Flowers as like the lock-in. It's rough because it's the Monday night game. The Chargers defense has been very, very good. but that's going to be an interesting game. It's the brothers again. So, yeah, the brothers Harbaugh. I'm locking in Flowers. The other two, I think I'm going to just go ahead and go with Deebo. I mean, Sutton's been meh. Most of this year, I feel like Bo Nix has been really surprising. So I love that.
I love looking at Joe's eyes when you called Courtland Sutton meh.
I don't know. I mean, he's been pretty good the last 4 weeks, I guess. I don't have him anywhere, so that's why I'm like,
paying attention? I don't know, man.
Not to Sutton, because I don't have him anywhere, so no, I really haven't. All right, yeah, he's not very meh.
Glad to know. Let
me take that back.
That's our analysis. I don't have him, so
you're welcome, AJ.
I care about the people I have.
It's fair.
I mean, I don't pay attention to ones I don't unless I'm trying to find them. But no, all right, yeah. So scratch what I said. He's been very good lately, for sure. Although he was terrible against Vegas in the first game, 2 for 32 on 5 targets. Yeah, I'll stick with Deebo for this one. I think this will be a down week. Sutton's due for a bad week, so we'll go with that.
Well, I think Zay's the lock in this one. He's been averaging. I've got the notes here. 13.6 half PPR points over his last 7 games. That puts him at wide receiver 10. So we're talking about a wide receiver 1. The Chargers have allowed the 11th most fantasy points to receivers since week 3. So while their defense is good, you can get production against them. So I think for me, he's the lock. I can't go Deebo. It's like he's averaging like under 8 fantasy points since week 4. That's under, what is that, 54th among receivers with at least 4 games during that period. You've got George Kittle back. You've got Juwan Jennings kind of looking like the wide receiver 1 and better than Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
You've got McCaffrey, who's going to get 20 at least, probably more, 20 touches. And you've got Ricky Pearsall, who, I mean, he looked 2 weeks ago, looked really good. Last week he was kind of shut out, but I think it was more of a game script situation. I can't go Deebo. And Sutton's been, like we discovered, he's had double-digit half PPR points in 7 of his last 9 games. He's averaging 15.1 since week 8. That puts him again in like top 10 territory. He's getting a lot of volume. He's getting high-value targets. And Nix looks good. So Sutton and Flowers for me.
Joe?
Yeah, it's Sutton and Flowers for me too. I gotta see something from Deebo before I'm like really gonna buy back into it. It's been a rough stretch for him, man. And with all these guys coming back, it seems like he's being left out for some reason. I don't know if he's hurt or something, but it's really just he's the odd man out. It's really hard to say you want to sit Deebo, but that's what we've got here. I mean, he's teetering at like the end of my wide receiver 2s, where Sutton and Flowers are at the very top end of my wide receiver 2s. So it's like the complete opposite ends there. So that's where I'm going. You guys have already said a lot of the other stats, so there's no point in regurgitating the same thing. So
he's also not really passing the eye test. Like watching the 49ers, the explosiveness, I don't know if he's injured or anything or whatever, the explosiveness doesn't seem to be there. He had that really good game against Seattle a couple weeks ago, and even that one huge catch that he had, there was no separation. It was like a jump ball that he caught, and then he the defender fell down, so he had a free run to the end zone. But Not a ton of separation. I know there's a bunch of separation metrics out there. He's not grading well in any of them. So, yeah, I'm kind of concerned. If I'm a Deebo owner, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say he's at least getting targets, but it's just not like amounting to anything. I mean, 6 and 7 targets a game for him is normally fine because he's usually getting involved in the run game a little bit, and he's got all that yards after the catch usually, but he's just not getting that right now.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, until I see him start to make those plays again, if these are my other two options, I'm going to go these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like, just glancing back through his stats now, he went four catches. He had one more catch this past week against Seattle than he did in the blow-up game, but that long run was really it. Or not run, but the long catch and run. That was the breaker, 22 yards, and then one carry for negative a yard. I mean, that's not cutting it. So,
okay. I mean, I get the hesitation with Zay Flowers. He's been bad the last couple of weeks, but the whole Ravens the Ravens offense exploded against Cincy, just not Zay Flowers, right? And then last week against Pittsburgh, they put up a complete dud. And so just nobody really did much of anything. I have to believe they're going to get Zay Flowers back in action here and get things rolling again with that offense, even against a very, very tough Chargers defense here. I just think they're going to be able to take advantage of that. And I mean, look, we saw Cincinnati be able to do really good things against this Chargers defense. So maybe they're not as good as, they were thought to be.
Yeah.
And it could have just been a bunch of the opponents they were playing. I don't have the stats in front of me here or the schedule in front of me here about who they've really gone up against, but there's a little bit of that too. So
I think they're good. I just don't think they're like, we're going to shut you down type of good. They're not like the type of defense where if you've got a wide receiver one or borderline wide receiver one where you're worried, all right, he's going to get shut down. It's not like Patrick Surtain or, or Quinyon Mitchell or it's not that. Like, I don't think I'm not so worried about the matchup. I do think
they're middle of the road against receivers. So I think they're allowing a lot of yards. They're just preventing people from scoring. And then Cincinnati was like, yeah, we're going to put a stop to that. Just put up a ton of points against them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think their pass rush is pretty good. Their run defense is pretty stout. So that plays a big factor in it. But I mean, come on, who's really stopping Derrick Henry and Lamar in the same game? I mean, I know Pittsburgh sort of did it, but they still got theirs to some degree. So
Pittsburgh always stops Lamar somehow. I don't know how they do it. They've got his number.
They find a way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Next up,
Alicia, you got Jameson Williams versus the Colts, Calvin Ridley versus the Texans, and Jakobi Meyers versus the Broncos. Fight.
Whew. Wow.
I'm the number one JMO fan here, so don't let me down.
Yes, you are.
Well, I don't think I'm going to let you down because it's Meyers against Denver. He had a semi-decent game against Denver last time out. It was I think it was 12 PPR points or something, which against Denver, that's actually pretty decent considering, the Raiders aren't very good. The quarterbacks aren't very good.
Yeah.
I like Meyers rest of the season, particularly in the playoffs. His schedule's fantastic. But this week, give me Williams and give me Ridley. Ridley's got a great matchup. Williams has a nice matchup. He's getting actually decent volume. Laporta is going to be back, but still, again, with Williams, we know you need probably 3 targets. He just needs to hit on one of them. So I'll go Williams and Ridley.
Joe, don't let me down.
Oh, is it my turn? I said I'm the same. I'm avoiding Meyers against Denver at all costs. So, yeah, look, if there's one thing I'm actually starting to buy back, I was all in on Williams earlier this year, and he started off hot, and then he started seeing his usage go down, and then he got hurt, right? So there's that, or suspended. As soon as he came back, though, the usage was right there. And the first game back was even with Laporta. Now, I will say the first game back, Goff threw the 5 picks. So they threw the ball like a crazy amount of times for Detroit. But last game, they threw the ball a lot too. Or they didn't throw the ball a lot, but they threw the ball a lot to Williams. Now, that was without Laporta. But Laporta hasn't seen the volume all year. There's a reason why he's not. I mean, he's been at the bottom, if not outside of my tight end 1 range for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Because he's just not getting the usage. And unless he scores, he's not useful right now. So I'm not really worried about Laporta stealing anything from Jameson Williams, in my opinion. So I'm in on him, and Ridley is just seeing crazy volume now that D-Hop's been gone. So you got to keep riding that.
And the matchup's great, too.
Yeah.
AJ?
Yeah. So with Ridley, matchup definitely is nice. You know, the volume is there, like you were saying. Now, he did see his fewest amount of targets since week 4, with still getting 6 targets, though. So he didn't do a lot versus Minnesota, which is kind of surprising because I feel like that's a good matchup there, too. But, you know, maybe that was more game script, whatever. I don't know. Ridley's just been a target hog. So it's hard to not go with him. I'll make it a clean sweep here. I'll go with Williams. I love Meyers. I have him in a lot of places this year. And, you know, I've been pretty happy with him overall. He's been productive. He's getting, you know, enough targets, even when Javonte was still there. Granted, he was injured a lot while he was still in a Raiders uniform, so it doesn't really matter that much, I guess.
Injured.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On the sidelines. Yeah, Meyers went 6 for 72 on 9 targets against Denver in Denver. I mean, you may have to start him in some places, but if this is your matchups that you're looking at, I think you sit him out of these 3.
Yeah, just to put it in perspective, how much target share Ridley has gotten since D-Hop has been traded: 38% of the targets, 32% of the targets, 39% of the targets. And then, of course, last week was bad. It was 19.
It was just
I think
weird week.
Yeah,
Minnesota's a weird team because if you've got a quarterback who's bad against pressure, it's going to be bad. It's just because the way they pressure and the amount they pressure. Will Levis never had a chance. Like, he was dumping it off to running backs, to tight ends, or trying to at least.
But that's hard. I know that target share percentage is just insane. You've got to keep going with that. So, Winston.
And the other thing too. So Minnesota, you know, they still gave up a ton of points to Tennessee receiver. It was just all
one catch.
It was one catch by Westbrook-Ikine for like 98 yards.
98 yards,
yeah. There you go.
So that's the biggest thing.
That was the play.
Well, Westbrook-Ikine just keeps scoring. Like
5 out of the last 6 games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard? That's
Yep.
nuts. Yeah, Westbrook-Ikine, 2 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown.
Maybe AJ was right a couple weeks ago when he said he was the number 1 wide receiver for Tennessee.
Told you.
Stop it.
See, I do know things.
I'm just kidding, AJ.
Me too. I know nothing.
All right, before we jump into the, we got one last receiver one, but let's Cardinal here. Rest of the season, would you rather have Kyler and Deebo or AJ Brown and Knicks?
Oh, that's easy.
AJ Brown and Knicks.
Yeah.
Why is that a question?
I think you got to go that side too. I just
With
can't
Knicks'
trust Deebo,
schedule?
and even though it might be a slight downgrade to Kyler, it also might not be.
I don't know if it is.
I think you take that.
I think Knicks' schedule just kind of evens that out. the Kyler versus Knicks. Although Kyler has a pretty solid schedule as well, but
They do have a good schedule down the stretch, actually.
They do have a lot of matchups that are some run funnel defenses, though. So James Conner, Benson. I like AJ Brown and Knicks, no brainer to me.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, good luck. Next up,
Joe, you're up. And this one should be a fun one. You get Quentin Johnston versus the Ravens, Jaylen Waddle versus the Patriots, and Christian Watson versus the Niners.
Oh.
Fight.
I hate you. All right.
Different definitions of fun.
Yeah.
Torturing Joe.
He likes to call a lot of his questions fun because it's torture for him.
Well, it's torture for people going
Torture
through
for
decisions
you.
like this.
I'm sitting Waddle. I don't trust Christian Watson either. Quentin Johnston, doesn't see a ton of volume here. But that Baltimore secondary is just crap at this point. So I'm actually in my dynasty league. I've got Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey. I'm starting both of them because why not? Jaylen Waddle has been sitting on my bench in every league for weeks. Tempted to drop him. There's just been nobody better. Christian Watson is right now the wide receiver du jour for Green Bay. That seemed to last for a couple of weeks, and then we just turn the cube to the next one. It's like, oh, next. So maybe in a couple of weeks it'll be Reed's turn again. But right now it's Christian Watson.
See, I ask these questions because people need to know what to do with Jaylen Waddle, Joe.
You sit him if you can at all.
I'm in the same boat where for me it's easy, Johnston and Watson. I would say the only reason to keep Waddle is, Miami does poorly and they shut Hill down. Maybe Waddle becomes the wide receiver one. Otherwise, he hasn't had more than 7.1 half PPR points since week 1. He's legitimately non-play. He's just not playable. And you look at Johnston, he's had close to 10 half PPR points in 5 of his last 6 healthy games. He's getting there. I know it's touchdowns, but he's getting those targets. So the regression, where is that going to come from? Last week, he was 2nd or 3rd in the league in air yards. He had 6 targets, a bunch of deep targets. And then he had that, the end zone, the easy end zone target, which he seems to get 1 or 2 of every week. So he's easy for me. And then Watson, I guess you look at his last 4 healthy games with Jordan Love. He's had 14.3, 7.2, 17, and then I think it was 1.5. So, yes, it's not great, but still better than Waddle. I don't know if I have Waddle in my top 50. It's just why at this point. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
AJ.
Waddle's trash. I'm surprised you still have him. Yeah.
This
Watson,
is where
I don't like Watson that much better. But he had the last big game for Green Bay. Reed's been up and down, but he's still somehow been the most consistent as far as points for PPR. He had a couple down weeks in 7 and 8, but other than that, he's been reliable. Dobbs has been completely hit or miss.
Although on the field more than any of them.
Which I don't understand it. I have him and Scott Fish, and I'm just probably benching him. I don't know if I want to though, because I have a ton of bye weeks and injuries, so it's kind of hard.
Joe's gonna will his way into the end zone here and make this a fantasy day for him.
Oh, he did.
He did.
Oh, did he get? I'm behind. Oh my gosh! I knew the Joker to do something there, but wow.
Well, if you're playing against Chubb, you're behind as well.
Well, they're going to go for 2 again, I guess.
With Green Bay, I think part of it is Wicks is an extremely talented receiver. He's a really sharp route runner. He just can't catch. Legitimately, I think he's 2nd or 3rd in the league in drop rate. And they're just not putting him on the field anymore. And that's led to Watson's snap share going up. Dobbs is kind of the possession guy. So when they need possessions, they go to him. But Jacobs has kind of taken that role a bit, where they're dumping it off to Jacobs, getting some chunk plays, which is why Dobbs is not doing well anymore. But Watson's been the consistent guy the entire year. He looks really good. It's just, will he get the volume? I think given what he did last week, there's just no way he's not going to. Wicks has not been playing well. San Francisco against the slot. They're really good against the slot, so it's probably not a read week either. So I could see Watson having a semi-decent game. Definitely better than Waddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, this isn't a great one, but yeah. We gave our answers.
I guess this is a shit on Waddle question.
Good.
I got my answer. All right, AJ. You get the tight ends. You get Will Dissly versus the Ravens and Tucker Kraft versus the Niners. Fight.
I'll go Dissly. After Kraft 0 burned me last week.
Rage drop.
Just gonna go Dissly. Yeah. I think it's still going to be, I think this is still a Jacobs game. We've been talking about that all show, with a dash of Watson, it sounds like. But Dissly had a great game last week. They're using him. He's had really good weeks in the past. Back when he was with Seattle, he was, when he was healthy, he was serviceable. So of these two guys, I'm going to lean Dissly. We already talked about how Baltimore's pass defense sucks. So, if Tanner Hudson is getting touchdowns for Cincy, Will Dissly can easily do some damage.
We really need a segment that's called AJ's Rage Drop of the Week.
I didn't drop Kraft. I wanted to, but didn't.
That's the whole point of the segment. You don't do it, but this is the person who I wanted to rage drop this week.
Or no, because he does it a lot.
No, I do actually rage drop a lot of people. That's the point.
We'll have to put a disclaimer that says, "Don't do what AJ does."
Yeah, don't try this at home.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. Thank you, Alicia.
Oh, that's good.
Who you got, Alicia?
Oh, it's a no-brainer for me. It's Dissly. Like you talk about the volume, Tucker Kraft's I think he's had more than 4 targets once in his last 8 games or something. Dissly has had 6 or more in 4 of his last 5 games, and then the matchups are completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Baltimore's allowed more than 12 fantasy points to 5 tight ends this year. The 49ers haven't allowed double digits to a single tight end. You've got Fred Warner. You've got the safeties. They're legitimately tight end. Defense versus position. Tight end can always be deceptive because it's always based on competition. But San Francisco is legitimately a good team against tight ends. They shut down Kelsey. It's not a team
they shut down McBride. They shut down. Yep. Yeah, they shut down everybody.
And Kraft had a goose egg last week. Why are we going back there?
Yeah. I agree. So
yeah,
not much else to add. You guys pretty much said it all.
All right.
So,
yeah,
last one.
Kraft's only value games have been when he's found the end zone. So,
and it's usually yards after the catch. It's not like he's getting some sort of role where it's a very valuable role. It's can he make people miss? And San Francisco's not really the team you want to target with that.
So we'll move on to our flex question then. And Alicia, you get this one. It's a little bit of a caveat, because of the Pacheco news, but because we haven't gotten anything, let's assume Kareem Hunt is starting. You got Josh Downs versus the Lions and Kareem Hunt versus the Panthers. Fight.
Okay, so are we assuming that Kareem Hunt is starting and Pacheco is not playing? If Pacheco is not playing, I'd probably go Hunt. Just because you've got the matchup with the Panthers. I don't think you can go wrong. If Pacheco plays, it's Downs for me. I think if Pacheco plays, like he's going to get 8-9 carries a minimum, which leaves Hunt with not enough, especially considering he just hasn't been efficient this year. And Downs has been very good, like both from an eye test, from a statistical standpoint. He's had 16 plus points in 4 of his last 8 games, and he had at least 9 in 3 of the other 4. He had 1 bust game. So 1 out of 8 bust games, like that's a really good rate. He's had his 2 best games of the season in his last 2 games with Richardson. I saw a stat that Detroit has allowed the most receiving yards to slot receivers since week 6. So it's probably a good matchup there as well. I'm going with Downs if Pacheco's active.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to lean Downs also, assuming Pacheco is active. It flips the other way. I'm with you on that one. Many of the same reasons. Is just you worry a little bit about the workload that Hunt's going to get, even though I do still think he's going to get the majority of it. I mean, the matchup is super good, but yeah, Downs gets all those, is going to get all the passing. You know, he just gets so much volume in the passing game. So, yeah, I'll lean that way.
I just feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Pacheco broke his fibula. I mean, I know they labeled it as a fracture, but a fracture is a broken bone. I don't know how he can be back this early. Is he superhuman?
I just
probably.
They're 9-1. Like they wouldn't be bringing him back if they didn't think he was like if they didn't think he's ready to come back. I don't think they'd be bringing him back. They don't have a reason to. So if he's coming back, he's healthy. So maybe maybe he is superhuman.
Yeah, he might be. AJ, you think he's superhuman, and are you going with him or Josh Downs? I meant Kareem Hunt. Sorry.
I like Downs. I am playing Downs in a flex in a couple spots this week. He's, we thought that he was Anthony Richardson proof, I guess, as in the fact that he was only good with Flacco, but he still came out last week and had a really good game. So that kind of put it to bed for me. So I'm leaning Downs.
I mean, look, if we're going to put Anthony Richardson, inside of our top 10, it's not going to be all because of his legs. He's going to have to pass a little bit. So Downs is going to be his guy. That's been proven time and time again. It's now Downs is the wide receiver 1 on this team.
Yep.
So that's it.
All right. So that is it for our Week 12 start-sit portion of the show. Next up, we're going to jump into not that. That's a different thing.
Did not prepare for that.
No, I don't know why I even hit the arrow button. I was trying to.
There was nothing on waivers this week.
No, sorry.
Nothing. Doesn't matter.
So we're gonna finish up here with just some quick observations and just thoughts about the past week, the season, some thoughts that you want to give. We want to give you listeners for to help you throughout the rest of the season. Elijah, go ahead and you can start out here and let us know what you want to share.
So I think the number one thing that has kind of struck me this year is how the receiver and running back positions have kind of done a 180. It used to be receiver was kind of the safe position and running back was, hero RB and then zero RB. And that was usually the profitable strategy. But this year, if you look at it, so the top 9 current running backs in total points all had ADPs inside the top 45. And then out of the top 20, 17 were inside the top 62. That excludes Dobbins, Chase Brown, and Hubbard. But, I mean, you're just seeing, all of these guys that, there's been far fewer running back injuries. There's been far fewer misses, just guys who we drafted. And I think McCaffrey was one of the few And still, anybody who's got him now and is in the playoff position is probably sitting pretty good right now.
I am super nervous of anybody who got him and got him back, and it was just like hovering around that like 6-7 spot. I'm like, oh no, please don't.
And he's got their schedule is
please don't make the playoffs.
Their schedule is awesome. If he gets into the playoffs in your league, he's gonna have a really high percentage of a roster percentage on championship rosters. It's gonna be, and but you just look at it, and then receiver, it's been all of the injuries. It's been some busts. It's been like you look at Adams, Garrett Wilson at least has come around. But there's been a ton of receiver injuries where it's usually you expect that from the running back position, not so much receiver. And then you've got the busts like Tyreek Hill, who finally had a decent game this past week, but still doesn't look like Tyreek Hill. You've got Davante Adams, and it's a complete 180, and that probably changes how we draft next year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not the first person to bring that up. It's very interesting. You're gonna get a lot of content creators who will do like the early mocks and the early rankings. It'll be very interesting to see kind of how we, kind of skew things next year to how this happens. Like we all overreact, right? We all will. I mean, I think back to how. What was it, last season? We were all drafting quarterbacks like crazy. And look how that turned out. We had, Stroud get drafted 25th overall for quarterbacks and be like a top 10 guy, right? It was just, there was so many guys came up. And now this year, it's kind of the same thing. We didn't quite go as bonkers with quarterbacks, but it was the same thing. A few years before that, Travis Kelce going in like the first round, right? The tight ends. It was like, let's not do that anymore. And then, we sort of didn't do it, but we still put like Laporta and Kelce in like round 2 to 3. And even that.
Mark Andrews.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see. I almost guarantee tight ends are going to get shoved down draft boards like we haven't seen in a long time. QBs are going to kind of probably stay the same. But yeah, we're going to kind of see a flip, I feel like, of running backs being more popular in the early rounds than receivers, which it's been a while. Old school guy here, man. I love to see it, but it's gonna make me draft a little bit different because I used to be able to take advantage of it, and I did this year.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's definitely cyclical, whereas this is how things happen. We come into each new year with the idea of, well, it's super flex, so we got to go for quarterbacks first. And now it's, if you're not in a super flex, then it's like, okay, well, we just got to build our depth out. We have 3 receiver spots and only 2 running back spots. Screw the running backs. Like they're not putting up points because of PPR and this and that. Or there's only so many guys that are the dual threat running back. Similar to a dual threat quarterback, because those are the ones that you're going after first in Superflex. But those are even kind of not necessarily dropping off. They're just getting figured out, and so they don't have the value to line up with their draft cost. But running backs, yeah, I'm old school too. I love seeing it. This was actually last year, I think was really the first year that I just said, I'm going, robust running back. I don't care about receivers. I'll figure it out later. I'll try to get one, but I wanted 2 awesome running backs to start, depending on where I was drafting. And it's worked out pretty well. So I do see the shift in power there as well.
I wonder how much of that is like we're seeing this because there have been a lot of receiver injuries too.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if that just like plays a big factor into it, and then like once we really kind of sit down and evaluate it, we're gonna go, you know what, this guy missed time, this guy was out for the year, all this, and then you know what? The receivers will be fine. We'll just go back to normal. I'm very curious to see where everything falls out.
Well, I think the mindset that, we should go receiver over running back because receivers are more likely to stay healthy, which has been kind of the mindset over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's something that people are going to start doubting for sure. Like if you saw this year, like every receiver, Godwin, Rashee Rice, whoever it was, they're all going down one after the other.
Yeah.
Well, and you're seeing defenses like change their strategy. They're all going after, quick, powerful edge rushers. They can get to the quarterback quick, get like one lockdown corner, shut down one side of the field, and just make it really tough on these quarterbacks to be honest, like the rules were changed drastically for the passing game to succeed, but defenses have, for the most part, across the league, we've seen a lot of defenses kind of catch up and figure out ways to shut down, these high flying passing offenses, more than we've seen in the years past.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is not based on any data. I just feel like if you look kind of in recent trends, teams are favoring these finesse, quick receivers, the good route runners, the great athletes over these big, dominant guys like the Calvin Johnsons. Again, Calvin Johnson's probably a bad example because it was one of a kind, but those big guys, like even AJ Green, like when he wasn't the best route runner, he was a guy who, like, you threw him up a 50-50 ball, he was going to catch it.
Yeah.
And like those guys aren't valued as high anymore. Maybe it's the finesse guys that are more likely to get hurt. I don't have any data to back that up. So
that's a good point. I mean, like we see Tyreek Hill get banged up quite a bit for that same reason. They catch those little short passes. They're all yards after the catch guys, and they're just gonna get dinged up. So there might be something to that.
Rice is like,
somebody could do a study.
195 maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Zay Flowers is little too, and that kind of thing. So in Dynasty, I did not convert to these little like slot receiver type guys are like the way to go now. I was still taking all these big time receivers, and I've been burned by it a couple times because I let a couple guys go, and Quentin Johnston's looking better this year, but man, do I wish I had taken Zay Flowers over him. Like, he went to pick after me in my Dynasty League last year, and that's looking like a really bad pick right now.
Yeah. But I don't know if, like, we're talking at this point next year and we're not talking about, okay, maybe Quentin Johnston was a better pick than Flowers. Like, maybe.
Yeah.
So, it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes all you need is a competent coaching staff.
Yeah, no, true.
Exactly. So I want to, I kind of touched on this a little bit. We've talked about, Anthony Richardson a lot in this show. I kind of want to go back to it a little bit, just with him being back in the fold. More or less, the observation, though, is I feel like this year we've seen way more quarterback benchings than we have in the past. Usually, it's the quarterbacks are getting injured. And, especially in super flex leagues, we always talk about how you need at least 3 guys and this and that. It's just a weird shift that I'm picking up on this year where, Richardson, okay, he was highly touted draft pick. They spent a lot of capital to get him. Well, he wasn't there yet. He wasn't ready yet. So they had Flacco, and Flacco was good for his usual, 3 to 5 games. And then he kind of fell back off into Flaccoism. And now they're like, all right, let's bring him back. So
explain to me, what is Flaccoism? I'm just curious.
Mediocrity.
Yeah, exactly. So
borderline
he's old and
just without the face.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So we've got that. Now we've got Danny Dimes getting benched. And not that the Giants have been good. # suck at Keith. They haven't. But he's not even the backup. He is just straight the number 3 quarterback going into this week.
He was the scout safety in practice today.
Scouting safety.
Yeah, I mean, they're giving it the keys to the Giants Jeep to freaking the guy with the weird agent and the mafia star. And then you got Drew Lock, veteran journeyman, as the number 2. Like, it just makes me laugh because the Giants are in the division with the Eagles. So I love watching these other teams just fall apart. Joe, I'm sure you do as well. Again, hashtag suck at Keith. But
I mean, I really enjoyed last year watching the Eagles just melt.
Yeah, I did not. No one in Philly did. But,
no one.
Yes. So anyway, but we've got the Danny Dimes thing, and just quarterback.
Bryce Young too.
What's that?
Bryce Young too.
Yeah, Bryce Young is another one who's another young, high draft pick, first draft pick, and all right, we're gonna go back with the veteran. And Dalton did his thing, and then the rocket fizzled out. So we're going back with the young guy. So I think with Richardson, Alicia, I think you mentioned like the playoff schedule is pretty favorable. This week, obviously tough against Detroit, but then you got New England, who's right in the middle of the pack. Denver, again, pretty tough, but then Tennessee and Giants, both lower third teams. So if for some reason he was dropped, he's probably been picked up by now after last week, but that's the kind of thing you look for, and you can't always just drop these guys. They're gonna come back. They're young, they're talented. They were drafted where they were drafted for a reason. Both in fantasy and in real life. So, it's a very interesting dynamic of what we've seen this year. I can't remember a year where this has really been the case. It seems to me more that it was an injury-based issue with why we saw so many backup quarterbacks coming in. But this year, it's just, our first guy sucks, so we need to put someone else in, try to win games.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a look at the Chicago. I'm gonna call it the new look offense a little bit. Changed coordinators. And where I'm really going to focus on it is the running game. And dare I say we're looking at a running back by committee going forward. I mean, I know it's just one game, but snaps 37-30, yes, in Swift's favor. 14-10 in Swift's favor. 2 targets to 1 target. Inside the 5 carries, 1-2 in favor of Roschon Johnson. I haven't seen him all night, but Jamie Perogue, the biggest Roschon Johnson fan I know, is I love how we're just keeping the hashtag Stuck at Keith up here on the on the screen here. By the way, this is hilarious.
We should.
I just noticed that, but yeah, I mean, I wonder. It was what was it like week 3 or 4 or something like that? It was like, oh, we're gonna get Roschon the ball more, and then Swift just took off. And it was like, well, never mind. But now, new coordinator. The offense looked tremendously better last week than they had in weeks. So I'm not ready to call it yet but after one game, this is really telling. And something, I think if you've got a spot on your bench, I'd say go stash Johnston and see what you can get. And especially if Swift goes down, he's clearly going to be the guy. And if anything, he does see a little bit more goal line work. Not all of it. Swift does get a fair amount. But Johnston, even if he's getting 35-40% of the work, if he gets those goal line carries, he can still have a better game than Swift, right? Because he'll
He's
fall
been
into
getting
the
them
end
all
zone.
season. It's not
I mean, it's actually a little bit more split. Because I do remember somebody like saying that they're like, "Oh, he gets all the goal line carries," and then
No, not all of them. He's been consistently getting some all season.
Yes. Even when he was only getting like 3 or 4 carries a game, like 2 of them were inside the 5, and it was like, well, okay. Like that one game he scored twice, he had like 5 carries. It was like, okay, sweet,
sounds about right.
Yeah. This is a backfield that I'm definitely watching and trying to see how it's going to spin, but it's one that I would get ahead of the trend if Johnston's out there and you've got just some scrub sitting on the back of your bench collecting dust. Let it be Johnston for a week, and maybe he won't be dust. You'll be dusting him off and putting him in your starting lineup soon.
Well, I think on that topic, if your trade deadline hasn't passed, I'm kind of because of what you're talking about, I'm kind of in favor of trading Swift because their running back schedule is brutal, and his value is not going up from here on. It's not really going up. Their schedule's is not great, and then you look at this Roschon Johnson thing, like if it becomes a real thing, it's not going to be able to support DeAndre Swift being even a high-end RB2, mid-level RB2. He's probably closer to a low-end RB2. Mm-hmm. And it is an extremely friendly schedule for their passing game or their receivers. So it's going to be very pass-oriented. It's going to be Caleb. I mean, if this game was any indication, Caleb's going to be running a lot more. Which
he should be. He's not a runner, but he can scramble. Like, let him get outside and then like make the decision: do I need to go, or like give him another option? And
it also, when your quarterback's getting blitzed like extremely heavy, like one of the things that can keep defenders honest is if there's an actual threat that he's going to take off and run. Mm-hmm. Like you saw Green Bay, they've been blitzing a lot, but last week they started off blitzing and then Caleb was taken off, and then you saw like there was one play where Quay Walker had a free lane and he was rushing, he was rushing Williams, and he kind of slowed down because he thought Williams was going to take off, and that's what it creates if you have an actual competent offensive coordinator. It can start to look a lot better, but I think Caleb's going to get carries, Roschon's going to get carries, their passing game's going to probably look a little better. There's going to be more receiver screens. There's going to be more high value targets there. I am worried about Swift the rest of the season, though.
Yeah.
All right.
So, you got anything else on that show? Or,
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at the box score from the game.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, we usually come with 2, but that's fine. If you only got 1, we'll just
I have one more thing that I've kind of noticed when doing my rankings. So this is the first year where I started to do like an early rankings. I had a few people reach out and ask, like, they have their waivers go on Monday night. They want rankings so they can do the waiver claims. So I've been doing early rankings. And what I've found is a lot of my, like, it's not, my early ranking is not at all based on like my model or anything like that. It's just like pure gut. It's like, okay, this guy has a good matchup. He's been playing well. And a good example would be Jared Goff last week. When I did my early rankings, I believe I had him at QB3. Just the matchup was amazing, and he was due, and it was indoors, and all of the factors. And then, I did my model, and it kind of bumped him down, I think, to QB6, which was still higher than the expert consensus, but it was not as high as I initially had him. All that's to say, like, I think overthinking in fantasy is a problem. I am definitely guilty of it, more so with my own teams than with my rankings. I will overthink everything with my own teams, whereas with my rankings, I'm much more comfortable being like, all right, I'm going to rank this guy here. I don't care. I have completely stopped looking at the expert rankings, like, to where I compare, because that definitely influences you. If you're like, I see, like, I'm 10 spots higher on Jared. Should I rank him that high? So I stopped looking at that. But overthinking, I think, is a huge problem in fantasy. And I'm trying to get away from it. And I encourage people to, like, there's times where you can overthink things, but if your gut's telling you something and the data can back it up, just go with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we do those start sit questions every week, and we have the ECR in one column, and then we have the projections in another column. They don't always line up, right? Like we saw the Christian Watson one, right? And I remember looking at the projections, and I meant to call it out, but I forgot. We got off topic, and it just forgot to say it. But if you look at just the projections, it was a slam dunk that Watson is not the pick.
Right.
We all went off of it. We all picked him, and it was over Waddle. The projections, because Christian Watson's been kind of bad all year, for some reason they still like Waddle like a little bit more. Like sometimes you can't just let the projections do the talking for you. You've got to watch, like the projections. Historical data doesn't always tell you the whole story. You've got to watch the games, and that's why I say, like, look, do I sit down and watch every minute of every snap of every game? Absolutely not. I am taking chunks of it in, a lot through red zone, a lot through highlights. It's as much as I could do. Like, this is not my full-time thing. I can't do it, so it's what I could do. But just knowing that and seeing the trends, that's why I love doing the usage report, and just it tells me stories. So like, yeah, I will use projections as a baseline, but then I move them all around based off my own gut feel. And I think that's, I tell people all the time, like in our Discord or, if I'm answering questions on Reddit or something like that, it's like, if it's close, I'm like, dude, you don't have to go with me. It's your team. Use your own gut, man. Yeah. You have a strong opinion on this guy. Go with it. We are all wrong a lot.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So,
100%.
Yeah, I love pointing that out. Great conversation there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I was thinking about that's been pretty bothersome to me, at least, I don't have this player anywhere, so it doesn't bother me from that standpoint. But just the prospect of CJ Stroud and how down of a year he's having this year. He was somebody last year that just, was this awesome rookie. Took the world by storm type play, and I don't know what's going on. Like Mixon there now, they didn't really have as good of a running game last year, so Mixon's been a nice breath of fresh air from that standpoint, but not at all from the standpoint of Stroud owners. I get he's been without Nico for a bunch of weeks. He's now without Diggs. But even earlier in the season when he had all of these weapons, he's only had one game this year with 3 touchdowns. And the majority of them, he's only got 2 other games with 2 touchdowns. So he's got more games this year with either 1 or 0 touchdowns than he does, multiple touchdowns. That is not something that you look for when you're drafting your QB1.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I do think some of that is the offensive line, man. It's rated.
I do think that definitely plays into it for sure. They haven't been a big help for him.
But it's a wonder how Mixon is playing so well with that offensive line. It's kind of crazy. That just says a lot, right?
I mean,
I think we're getting to the point where we might need to have a Bobby Slowick conversation. I don't know if we're there yet, but last year he was kind of the darling of most analysts, and for good reason. Like that offense kind of exploded out of nowhere, and then this year it's kind of looked pretty dry. And all of the things you'd expect an offense to do to take pressure off a struggling offensive line, they're just not doing it. They're just dropping back and trying to do the exact same thing they were doing last year when their offensive line was playing a lot better.
Yeah. And I mean, and Mixon missed 3 games early in the season. The Chicago game, I'm assuming he got injured in that game, if I remember correctly, because he only had 9 carries for 25 yards. That's his worst game. And everything else is double-digit carries, or over 20 carries, except for the New England game, his first game back in Week 6. He's got a touchdown in every game, 3 touchdowns last week. I know that last garbage time touchdown put a lot of people over and got them the win.
Yep, I'm one of them.
So, yeah, it was, that was clearly his best game because of the 3 touchdowns. Over 100 yards in all but 2 games. Mixon's been freaking phenomenal this year. And he's, like, at least the rankings I'm looking at right now, he's the fifth running back.
He's the RB1 in points per game.
Yeah, and he's missed 3 games. Like,
yeah.
That is absurd production. So I don't see a reason why they wouldn't keep feeding him. They still have at least the only downside too is that they have their bye week in 14. So
they also play Kansas City in week 16, and that's going to be the type of game where you're probably going to have a pass heavy approach.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a Mixon owner, I guess you can't really. There's not much you can do, but you're probably not getting a ceiling game then.
No,
they have KC and Baltimore.
Yeah,
and Baltimore's been good against the run. They've given up. They gave up a lot to Chase Brown. When Joe and I were at the game a couple weeks ago, but a lot of that was passing. So, he got the little 1-yard touchdown run. That was a cakewalk for that. But that's not an ideal schedule.
Yeah, it's a brutal playoff stretch there. My
playoffs.
The team that I stole Mixon from you in AJ in the draft. You were pissed.
I was super pissed.
That's
still pissed.
Hopefully that worked out for me. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see Stroud's kind of regression here. But we got a couple questions here. So I think we're getting the after party crew here coming in. Oops, sorry. Angel, Addison, Adam Thielen, Westbrook Akine at start this week. So it's starting 1. I don't know.
That's what it seems like.
Addison?
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't love it. It's against the Bears, but I'll take that over the other guys.
I think I'm going to go Westbrook just because of the scoring streak.
Wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that.
I've got to pump up my reasoning for putting I will say the depth charts have not been updated yet this week. I have not had a chance to get into them. So they will be updated by the time games start Saturday or Sunday. Sorry.
All right. Then Christopher here. Should I start Jameson Williams, Xavier Worthy, or Christian Watson?
JMO?
I'm a JMO. Yeah. I'm JMO.
Yeah.
Worthy, he had some weird usage last week. I think it's going to go back to Hopkins. It's going to go back to Kelsey. It's a really great matchup for Kelsey this week. So
yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then Dollar Bill, Watson, Pittman, or Thielen at flex.
None of the above.
Ooh, golly.
Play somebody from a bye week.
Watson.
Yeah.
Pittman's essentially he's Waddle except injured. He's for some reason they're playing him through an injury. Thielen, his first week back against Kansas City, thank you. Just give me Watson.
Yeah, I'm on Watson too. I had to look it up.
Thielen might not even play either.
It's an ugly group down here, man. It's like Waddle and Pittman, those guys. It's like, no, just please find somebody else. But
it's been 6 weeks since Pittman scored double digits.
Yeah, even with Flacco, he wasn't doing anything.
Nope.
That was supposed to be the savior. Not happening. So, all right. So the last thing I want to bring up, and you kind of already alluded to it, is do we see more teams kind of take a page out of Buffalo's playbook here and basically say, okay, Kansas City, beat us with anybody else but Kelsey, because you don't have anybody else, right? I mean, they legit just shut down Kelsey. I mean, they let no Gray score twice. Okay, if you're gonna, it's almost like a basketball, right? Like you shut down the best player, or like you can sometimes let the best player go for like 50, right? But as long as nobody else on the other team scores, like you're good. It's like it's kind of like that, But in this case, they shut down Kelsey and said, "Beat us with anybody else. Good luck," and they didn't. And so I kind of wonder if more teams try to do that. Now maybe they can't do it. That's one thing. They don't have the personnel to take.
I was
Kelsey
about to say
out.
that, yeah.
So that's a big thing. But you got. I will be very curious to see if more teams try to do that. Yeah, because I mean, look, Hopkins didn't look good. He's had that one phenomenal game since he's been there. Otherwise, it's been not great. I mean, yeah, we're getting Pacheco back, so maybe that boosts things a little bit. I'm a little skeptical. You mentioned the Worthy usage. I do think that was a little bit of we don't really think this guy's a huge threat. You don't really develop plays for him, or if they are, it's like very specific, like 2 or 3 plays every game. But his usage was that the highest usage he had all season?
Yeah.
Last year, I believe, or this whole year. Last game. So it's like, okay, give the new kid the ball. Let's see what he can do with it. And it didn't work. He scored. Sure, I think he scored.
And he had, again, another play where he caught the ball out of bounds. He can't seem to keep his body or his feet in bounds on anything close to the sideline. It's bizarre. Yeah. I think with Kelsey, I think you touched on it, where it's like, does the team have the personnel to actually do it? Like Carolina this week, if they put 3 guys on Kelsey, great. Like Hopkins is going to go off, and then Pacheco is going to go off. They can't stop the run anyway. So I'm not worried about them. What I am worried about is if you look at the fantasy playoffs, you've got Cleveland. Potentially, they could probably shut Kelsey down. You've got Houston and then Pittsburgh, both teams pretty stingy against tight ends and have the ability to shut them down. I think we could see a lot of frustrated Kelsey owners in the playoffs. I still think Kansas City will be able to win. I think you can, with Hopkins, with Pacheco, with maybe even Pirine out of the backfield, with gadget plays to Worthy. They can find a way just because it's Andy Reid and because their defense is so good. But I do think we're going to see some more down weeks from Kelsey going forward.
Yeah, and that it wasn't so much worrying about the fact that the Kansas City is going to win games. I really don't care. It's more of, what do fantasy managers do with Kelsey? You're starting him. That's how they do it, because any position sucks, and Kelsey can go off, and we know it.
Well, yeah. Again, if your trade deadline hasn't passed, if you can get a McBride or a Bowers,
I don't know if I'm trading Powers.
No, I don't think you're going to be able to. But maybe if you can, again, and we're talking strictly redraft. If you can pair Kelsey with another, wide receiver 3 for a Bowers, that's a no-brainer. Go do it. Bowers' playoff schedule is amazing. Same for McBride.
Or even take the I guess you would call it a downgrade at tight end, but maybe it's not. If you look at the schedule down the stretch, you get a Hawkinson or something, right? Who's been okay, right? He's getting a lot of volume. You get a Hawkinson and somebody else for Kelsey.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I would do. Maybe you upgrade somewhere else, but take the downgrade at tight end, and it ends up not being. So that's where you can kind of, that's where just being smart works out in fantasy. So. But yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to say. We got 2 more quick questions here. All in one show. Ridley or Jennings this week? I will go. I feel like we answered this one earlier. I will go Jennings. I will go Jennings. And then he's asking, will Pacheco play? If so, would you start him? I have Gibbs, Jacobs, and Connor at flex. Not over those.
Not over those.
Not
guys.
over those three, but I
Yeah,
think he's playing. We're
yeah.
still gonna have to wait and see. But as of right now, I kind of believe he is playing. But no, you keep those three in absolutely.
Chris Allen also asked
It
follow-up.
might be a bit before you could start Pacheco over any of those three anyway.
I don't think you
I
will
would
be
look
able to at any
I would
point.
look to trade Pacheco if I were you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get a receiver.
Yeah, because you're loaded at running back. You don't need him. So
Or are we worried about the Benson factor? Maybe trade Connor.
that's where I got roasted on Reddit.
I'm not in that boat. I think Benson's going to get work, but their schedule is so good for running backs. I think Connor will get his own too.
So the only reason why I said, "Oh man, he also has Pollard," yeah, I would shop Pacheco or Pollard. See what you can
Pacheco and Pollard for one of the other guys, and go get Saquon and
Mike Evans,
Derrick Henry.
That's where I got roasted on Reddit though, and I wasn't saying like, just give up on Connor, but it was his value is going to decrease going forward. It's not going to be. I don't think he's going to return what he's been returning this whole season so far because it looks like Benson's getting more involved. So you could get really good value in return for Connor right now, and then it ends up working out for you. And people are just like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. He's going to be good." And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't say he's going to suck. I just said, that you're going to get better. You're going to get a better player back in the long run than what you gave up with Connor." So, it was a fun conversation on Reddit. Yeah, I had a bunch of good weeks on Reddit. Everybody was playing nice, and then I said one bad thing about Connor, and oh boy, they all came out. Reddit's a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
There's a few players on Reddit where if you don't rank them high or if you're low on certain players, it's like, whew. Yeah.
You say like one wrong thing, you get called out like that.
I'm
human. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I've got McCaffrey like at the top of my rest of season rankings, and oh boy, like last week when I put out my trade chart, it was like, what has he done? He's been the RB1, the number one fantasy asset the last 3 years. That's what he's done.
What has he done?
He's getting
if
20.
You ask that, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And can I play in your league?
Yes, please.
I will take CMC from you if you do not want him. Thank you. I feel you. So, all right, Elijah. It's been a long show, but this was a great one. A lot of good conversation. Glad to have you on here. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on the rest of the season.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. Not on Blue Sky. Blueski?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
Yeah. Blue
Sky. I'm not on Blue Sky yet.
I like Blue Ski.
What the hell is this Blue Ski thing?
Yeah.
We do call him Steve. Let's not go there.
There was someone at my company, and he asked, like, we were having a strategy meeting, and he asked if we should start having reporters sign up for it. Sign up for Blue Sky, and I'm like, well, then he goes like, is anybody on Blue Sky yet? And I'm like, well, I'm in New York. It's kind of cloudy here. Now that was my first that was a really good, proud dad moment. Like that's a dad joke. But yeah, like you can find me on USA Today. I do rankings and a rest of season. It's a trade value chart / rest of season rankings every week. My job is more behind the scenes with content strategy, and we're doing a lot more fantasy content this year, and there's going to be even more next year.
Okay.
So you can find all our content there.
Cool. All right, man. Yeah. Good luck in the rankings. Not too much though, and
well, hopefully it's 1 and 2. 1 and 2.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll take the big one back here. My wife will hate me, but I'll take the big one. You get the same.
I think you have room. You might have room for one more, and then you gotta let me have it.
All right.
Yeah.
We just got to fight off Sean. Is that cool? He does not let Sean win.
He's had enough. It's like seriously.
That dude's a machine.
Yeah.
But no, good talking with you, man. And good luck for the rest of the season.
You too. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Alicia.
Yep. So that's it for the Week 12 show. Thank you for hanging around with us. I know it was a long one, but This was a lot of good back and forth here, I thought. So hopefully you took something away from it. And, of course, check us out on fantasy6pack.net. You got me on Twitter at F6P_Joe. I'm on Blue Sky. I think it's F6P Joe. I left out the underscore for some reason. I don't know why. So we're over there. I'm all over the place. So check us out and good luck in week 12. See ya.